want to watch it in the future, it will be recorded and I can send that link out. My name is Kenna Knight. I work with the Cooperative Extension Service. Hopefully some of you figured out where that was when you came and picked up your bags. If you did not get there to pick up your bag today, those bags are still sitting there. You can swing by tomorrow so you can make this for supper sometime this evening, or I mean, not this evening, but another evening. None of the items in it is perishable, but we don't want them sitting around the office. So if you did not make it there to pick up your bag, I recommend that you try to get to the office and pick it up, because there's lots of cool, good things in that bag for you. If you did get your bag, I'll show you some of the handy dandy things that came in it. You should have got a meat thermometer. Everybody should have got a meat thermometer, or a thermometer in general. It is a digital one. Should maybe got a couple pot holders, maybe an apron. I think an apron we threw in the bags. We threw a few measuring utensils. These are teaspoon, tablespoons. Some of you might have got one of these handy dandy contraptions. A few of you might not have. You might have got this, which came in very handy. It's a jar opener to where you could, it came in handy when I opened my jar of salsa here a few minutes ago. And then you should have got the ingredients as well to make the dish we're going to make tonight. And tonight we're going to make this autumn sweet potato chili. Also this evening on the presentation with you, I have my coworker Jennifer Brett, and there will be times throughout the presentation she's going to share with you some tidbits about the nutrition and the recipe we're making. And then we also, with going into Thanksgiving, we wanted to take a few minutes and talk turkey with you, because we feel that there's a lot of things that is important for us in the process of preparing turkeys, if you might be making a turkey for Thanksgiving or for the holidays or sometime during the course of that time. So we're going to talk turkey a little bit as we go as well. So I am going to try to spotlight me for a few minutes. If I do that, can everybody see me large and not a little block on your screen now? Okay, that hopefully will help you keep on track as we're going through making the recipe. I will tell you, this recipe right here is probably one of the easiest recipes to make. It is very simple. Most of the time, I have all these ingredients on hand at my house. It is one of those dishes that you can come in from working, you can come in, you can have nothing to frost it, and in the end, you'll have a meal. Might not be a meal everybody will like in your house, but we'll even talk away that there's some ways that we can enhance it and make it a little more family friendly for your family, depending on what you want to put in it. In your bag, you should have had all the ingredients. You should have had a can of sweet potatoes. You should have had 2 cans of black beans. You should have had a packet of chili seasoning. The recipe actually called for chili powder. It was easier for me to buy chili packets for everyone than to take a chili powder container and divide it out. You can sometimes buy chili powder in packets as well. So if you want a little more chili flavoring and you have chili powder, you can always add a little more of that as you go. And a jar of salsa. And that's pretty much it. Pretty simple, pretty plain, pretty ingredients. The only thing you really need, utensil-wise, to prepare it is a can opener of any way, shape, or form that you might use to open your cans, and a big pot to put it all in. So it's kind of a dump and go recipe, which are the kind I really like. I can put it on, not have to worry about it. And if we go through the process of what we do first, if we read the recipe, you're going to combine the sweet potatoes and the chili powder and the salsa in your pot. So you haven't got your pot out ready, go ahead and get your pot out. If you have your can opener, you can go ahead and open up your can of sweet potatoes. I can attest to you that probably the thing that I get cut on the most in the kitchen are cans. Jennifer can tell you that we have accidents in the kitchen at work a lot of times with these are very sharp. So I need you to be very careful as you're opening your cans. Usually if you're letting children do it, you might want to take this lid part off for them. You might not want to do like Kenna. You might want to open it all the way off and then get it out. Some people make this nice magnetic tool that will actually pull that out as well. And if you're fortunate enough to have a handy dandy, which I do not have, Pamper Chef type can opener, it will not leave these rough edges where you can get cut. But I promise you, you can get cut pretty bad. So the first thing we're going to do, we are not draining anything we're working with tonight. We're just dropping this straight into our pan. So we've opened up those sweet potatoes and we're just dumping that into my pot. So I dump that into my pot. If those sweet potatoes chunks look bigger than you might want it, take a little, I like to use my bamboo type mic thing and chop them up a little more if they're bigger than you want. If they're okay the size you want, leave them that size. I will like mine a little smaller. So I'm gonna chop mine up with that little wood chopper a little bit. That's totally up to you. The next ingredient I'm adding to my pot is my salsa. So if you got your little red jar opener and that helps you, open up your jar of salsa and dump it into your pot. If you prefer hot, you can get hot salsa if you're making this ever again. I tried to go more steady of the road, mild. Not everybody's a huge fan of spices, so I went more mild with the flavor of the salsa. But there are ways that if you want a little bit more spice to it, you can add some hot sauce or anything as you're making it. So in my pot, I have my sweet potato in my salsa. And hopefully you have your sweet potato in your salsa as well. And I'm going to keep right on going unless somebody tells me, slow down, they're not cut up, they don't have everything ready. And the next thing I'm going to add to this is my chili powder, or in this case, I'm adding my chili mix packet. The chili mix packet over the chili powder is just adding some additional flavoring with it than just the chili powder. It does have chili powder in it, but it just has some additional type flavorings as well. Chili powder is also going to thicken it up a little, or the chili mix will thicken it up a little. So if you're stirring it, you'll see that it is it might be a little thicker.
I have a question.
Yes,
It calls for 1 tablespoon. We put the whole pack of chili in.
I put the whole pack of chili in.
Okay. Just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure.
If you're making it and you're just using your chili powder, you could actually put a little more in if you want. It's all depending on the spices as you want, but for the sake of making it simple, just dump. Use that whole packet. And it's just adding some other seasoning to it. And then you're pretty much turning on your oven, your stove top, and you're heating it up to a boil. So we put our first 3 ingredients, and we're heating our 3 ingredients we added to the pan up to a boil. So. And hopefully everybody's doing good on where we're at.
We didn't get a packet. All we had was the powder. We can just use this.
You can use chili powder with it, yes.
Okay.
But
And we just,
you're also welcome to go pick up a packet from the office because they were all there and ready for everybody as well. Did it miss getting put in your bag, are you saying?
yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry. I'm not saying that we don't make mistakes sometimes, but some
Oh, no, I have
you would have
some,
just
though.
got
Is
a pack
just
like
as
this. So you
good?
have chili powder and or some kind of chili seasoning pack at your house, that's what you're gonna put in it.
Is this okay?
If that got missed in your bag.
I have these in my cabinet.
What type is it, Emily?
I have a mild chili packet or just like an original chili packet.
Yep, that would be fine.
Okay,
That worked
thank
perfect.
you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
Okay, so somebody asked if there's anything else, if they really dislike sweet potatoes, if there's anything else that they could actually substitute. Okay, so you're substituting the sweet potatoes for a little bit of chunk, and I know sometimes it's the texture of the sweet potatoes people don't like. I would encourage you to try this with the sweet potatoes, because I don't think you're gonna get that strong sweet potato taste in this recipe. If it's really that texture part of it that you don't like, you're probably not going to like much of the stuff you could substitute. You could add additional beans instead of the sweet potatoes. You could add, you could probably add pre-cooked white potatoes, but it's going to give it a totally different starchy flavor to it. You could add pumpkin. If you would rather use a can of like pumpkin puree, then you will not even get the texture of it. So that would be something in addition that you could add as well. And I realize I'm not a huge sweet potato fan. I don't like sweet potatoes at all, but I do know that in this chili recipe that I've made before, it doesn't bother me. So, but on that same question, and somebody said they don't like sweet potatoes, is there a difference between sweet potatoes and yams? Anybody got a thought? Do you think there is?
My answer is it depends on where it grows.
My answer is no.
Your answer is no. Actually, they say that sweet potatoes and yams are actually two different plants. It is a type of, but they're are basically two different vegetables, even though we interchange them very easily. 75% of what is grown are actually yams or of that yam variety. So that's why most of the cans we say sweet potatoes and yams on it, and they are orange. You're not going to buy a yam that's not orange. Okay, but has anybody ever grown sweet potatoes or seen sweet potatoes any other color than orange?
If nobody else answers, I will. You can have them in purple.
Yeah, they come in purple, they come in red, they actually come in a kind of yellowish kind of color. So there is a bunch of varieties. Actually, sweet potato yams as a yam is not native to North America or to us. They started more in Africa and Asia. And the majority of our sweet potatoes aren't grown here. They are grown in other places as well. So just some fun sweet potato facts, even though you might, and you'll even notice if you don't like sweet potatoes as it's boiling some, and mine is boiling now. So I'm gonna turn it down to a simmer and add my other ingredients, which is pretty much black beans. Okay, and which is very unusual with black beans. Usually whenever we put black beans in a dish, we rinse them and we drain them. And the recipe says do not drain. So you're using the liquids from everything that we're using. And I'm gonna get a spoon out to help get some of that stick to the bottom. I'm putting 2 cans of the black beans straight in the pot, and then it's on a simmer. If you had, these are, you could always cook your own black beans and then add it. That to me is way too much work, when you can buy black beans pretty reasonable at the store. So you're adding your black beans.
I'm gonna throw in that the only people that might want to cook their black beans themselves is if they need a low sodium diet. Because canned black beans are gonna have a lot of salt in them.
And even though you can buy low sodium, they still have it more sodium than if you did them by yourself.
Correct.
And most of the time, you're not going to find low sodium, especially if you're shopping locally. So in my pot, I've got black beans, I've got my sweet potatoes, I got my chili powder / chili seasoning pack, my salsa, and my black beans. If you look in it, it becomes a very dark color and resembles the look of chili. If I was making this for my family, and then after I cover a little bit about that, well, first of all, there is no meat in this recipe. So is that bad or good? Who has a thought?
I mean, I guess it's good or not.
I
Any
do
other
have the
thoughts?
option of adding meat in with this, so yeah, I think it's nice to have a meal that's not meat included.
Yeah. And one thing that we're getting our proteins from where in this dish then?
That would be the beans.
Right, we're getting our proteins straight from here.
We're also getting it from the sweet potatoes.
Do
Yep.
what, please, Jennifer?
We're also getting it from the sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
So by combining sweet potatoes and black beans, you make a complete protein, which is what your body needs. If you just had one or the other, you wouldn't have a complete protein.
See?
So if we were vegetarian, it'd be very good. Meal substitution for us for the most part, because we're getting that complete protein through it.
Correct.
I saw Denise. Denise says she likes meat in her chili. If I'm serving this to some people in my family, they want meat in their chili as well. And there are a lot of options of meat that you can put into this chili. I actually went ahead and browned up a pound of hamburger, which I will add to my chili. You could use steer burger. We're getting ready for hunting season. That's this weekend, starts gun season. Some people really don't know what to do with a lot of the deer, but a lot of people know what to do with the deer burger. You could add deer burger to it. We're going to talk about turkey here in a little bit, and you could actually put your leftover turkey meat in from Thanksgiving or the holidays when you're fixing it. You could add pulled chicken to this. You could add any type of meat that you wanted if you wanted an additional meat source to it. Because it has the salsa in it, it can have a little bit of a Mexican flavor to it as well. So if I was making it, I'd probably add a canned corn just to make it go a little farther, and my family likes corn. So I'm going to, before I finish my dish tonight, add a canned corn. If I wanted a little more spice to it and a little more chunky tomato part to it, I could add some Rotel tomatoes. You could use Rotel tomatoes in place of your salsa in it as well. If it needs to be thinned down a little bit, you can always add a little tomato sauce, or you can add water because the recipe says you can add water to it. And then there's a gamut of different spices you can add to it to enhance it a little. If I was making this as well, when I would brown in my meat, I could have done some onions. Then I would have had onions in it. I'm complicating the recipe a little more, but not much, all of which you could easily have a meal in a pot ready to have for your family in less than 15 minutes for the most part. And other seasonings that are common to add to your chili, most common in our Cincinnati style chili is cinnamon. So if you like that kind of flavor of the Cincinnati type chili, put a little sprig of cinnamon in it or a shake of cinnamon in it. If you want it a little hotter, you can add some cayenne pepper.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Can you add cream style corn to it?
You can.
Okay.
If I did not have whole corn, and if I add this whole corn, I'm adding the juice with it, I would add cream style to it.
Okay, thank you.
It will make it a little creamier of a soup. It's very good. I was making something, can't remember what I was making the other day. I think I was making a canned enchilada soup. And I ended up buying cream corn instead of canned corn. And I put the cream style corn in it and it worked just as well. And probably one of my most favorite seasonings that I use a lot is smoked paprika. Smoky flavor to it. I could add in a little smoked paprika as well. And then when I'm serving it, I would serve it with nacho chips instead of crackers. And I would probably have my guests or the people that eat most around my kitchen table put sour cream and shredded cheese on top of it. So then you have like a whole meal in a pot. Now, I've also changed the whole nutrition of it, and I've also put a few things in it or on top of it that might not be as healthy, but even if I left it just as it is, I still think I'd top it with the nacho chips instead of crackers. Just because that salty, crunchy corn chip type would, to me, go a little bit farther. So one other fun fact about sweet potatoes, whether you know this or not, is you can technically eat the whole sweet potato plant. You know, just when we do the tops and bottoms classes with the second graders, and we just read that book not too long ago, is sweet potatoes a bottom or a top plant? Where's most of the fruit? Under the ground or above the ground?
Nobody wants to
They'd be under
unmute.
the ground, right?
They'd be under the
Would they be
ground,
under-
right? They grow
be
like a
under the
potato. They grow like a potato under the ground. So they're a bottom. If we were doing this like with second graders, and they're a bottom of a plant. But technically, the sweet potato, you can eat the green on the top as well. I mean, it'd be kind of like eating your spinach. It'd be kind of like eating something on that line. Do we? Not usually. And then sometimes people will take. You can buy. You'll see people at. During the springtime for their planters and stuff, sweet potato vines that don't produce that really fruit is very popular as well. So it's a pretty plant that you can add that vines to some of your hanging baskets and stuff. But sweet potatoes are a bottom plant. That means they grow under the ground, just like our potatoes. There are significant difference between a sweet potato and a regular potato. And the biggest difference in that is some of the nutritional value of some of those. And I had a graph, and if I would have to put it in your bag, it would have been good. But if I'm going to pull this up real quick so you can see, can everybody see that? So if we're breaking down potatoes and sweet potatoes, and if you can see what's on the screen, what's the biggest significant difference between sweet potatoes and potatoes? What do you see?
Vitamin A, it looks like.
Vitamin A.
The vitamin A.
Yeah. Jennifer, why do we need vitamin A?
Vitamin A is used for our eyes. It also is part of our immune system health. And it also helps new blood cells to grow.
You also notice on this graph, sweet potatoes have a few less calories than your regular potatoes as well.
And it's a slower carb than a white potato. So if you're diabetic, it digests more slowly, so your sugar doesn't spike as quickly.
Yep. A lot of the other things are pretty comparable, but your biggest difference is your vitamin A and your vitamin C's. So everybody got all their stuff in their pot? Know what extra they want to add to their pot? Somebody says, how long will this keep in the refrigerator? It would be like any other soup that you would make. You could probably keep this 3 to 5 days in your refrigerator. Without meat in it, it might keep a little bit longer, but I won't push it much longer than that, 5-6 day mark. If you added meat and other ingredients to it, a bit more to your 3 to 5 days. It will keep for a while. It's good to take for lunches, make it in smaller quantities. And I am going to put Jennifer up to spotlight if I can figure out how to remove myself. And I'm going to let her talk a little bit more about the nutrition in this dish that we just made, and a little bit about turkey. And we'll answer questions or any questions you might have after she shares a little bit with us. Let me see if I can spotlight to Jennifer.
There we go. All right, so I'm Jennifer, program assistant here, as most of you know already. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the nutrition in the sweet potatoes and the beans. The chili seasoning has a little bit of nutritional value as well, because all spices have some nutritional value, mostly with vitamins and minerals. They don't have the fat or the carbs in them, so they're good additions that do give you some nutritional value as well. And then let's see, the salsa. We know in the salsa, you've got your tomatoes, your onions, your peppers, so you're going to have lots of vitamin C. But the main nutrition in this dish is from the sweet potatoes and the beans. And as we mentioned earlier, the two together makes a complete protein. So especially those who are vegetarians, you have to make sure that you are eating complete proteins. Otherwise, your body is not going to function correctly. Most of us get our complete protein out of meat, because all meat is a complete protein. But there are ways to be vegetarians in a healthy way. So sweet potatoes are a carbohydrate, as she showed with the thing with the potatoes. But it is slower to digest, as I said, than a white potato. So a little bit better for us in that sense. There is fiber in a sweet potato. And actually, there's more fiber in a sweet potato than a white potato, because it is so stringy. Any of you who have cooked a actual sweet potato or a yam and not a canned one, you can tell that it's really stringy when you go to eat it, and that's the fiber in it. In a white potato, most of the fiber is in the peel. And so unless we're eating the peel of a baked potato, we're not getting the fiber from it. So Kenna already mentioned the vitamin A, which is very high in vitamin A, a sweet potato is. More than we need in a day, but that's okay, because vitamin A is a water-soluble vitamin. So whatever our body doesn't need, we're going to pee it out. So it's not going to hurt us to get too much vitamin A. Vitamin C she mentioned as well, and that is in the sweet potato, and something our body certainly needs, especially this time of year as we come into cold and flu season where we need to stay healthy. Vitamin C helps us to stay healthy and avoid some of those things. There are also some minerals such as manganese, potassium, copper, and then there's also a couple of B vitamins in sweet potatoes. So those who do not eat meat need their B vitamins as well, because B vitamins are in meat. So if you're not getting your meat for your B vitamins, sweet potatoes are a good source. I looked on a website that showed some things to pair with sweet potatoes to get complete proteins. So other than black beans, you could instead use kidney beans, white beans such as navy beans, lima beans, or mung beans. But then I also found it interesting that carrots, cranberries, and pumpkin seeds also complement sweet potatoes to make a complete protein. So those of us who like to pair things like cranberries and sweet potatoes around the holidays, then you're getting your complete protein. And you don't have to put them in the same dish. So if you have sweet potatoes at your Thanksgiving dinner and you have cranberry sauce in your stomach, you are making that complete protein. Okay, so you don't have to cook it together and eat it together. Just try to get it in the same time frame. Okay, so then beans themselves, other than meat, beans are our best source of protein. But as I mentioned, they're not a complete protein either. They need a little something to help make it complete. But they are a very cheap source of protein, which helps a lot of us, and to make things go farther. So chili is a great thing, even if we don't have meat, so that we can have a cheaper meal that we can afford a little bit. So beans are a carbohydrate as well. So when we're pairing it, especially with sweet potatoes, we got to watch it a little bit if we're diabetic, to make sure we're not eating too big of a serving size. But if you're not diabetic, then you should be fine. Let's see, fiber in beans. Beans and oatmeal actually have the best types of fiber in them because they are so, I call it sticky, right? So when she opened that can of beans and had the juice in there, you could tell that that juice was thick, right? It wasn't like corn juice that just drains out. It's really thick and kind of gooky. And that's actually fiber. And that's the fiber that our bodies need to help us get rid of cholesterol. So beans and oatmeal, real oatmeal, not instant oatmeal, are great ways to help reduce our cholesterol. So if you can add beans 2 or 3 times a week into your diet, then you're going to help reduce your cholesterol, as well as give your gut some good fiber that I'm drawing a blank on the word now, the microbiome, the little microbes in our gut that actually aren't part of us, but they live in there. And that's what helps our immune system. So the more fiber we can give those little good bacteria to eat, the healthier we're going to be. So lots of good things in beans. In beans, you also have iron, calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, copper, and folate. So if you don't like oranges, folate can be gotten from your beans. So they're low in sodium, as I mentioned earlier. Canned, of course, is going to have a little bit more than if you're doing dried beans on your own. So just watch that a little bit. And then I think I already talked about what else I had on here. So we're good. Kenna, what's up next?
I think we're gonna talk a little turkey. If we,
On to turkey.
hopefully
All right.
everybody has their pot of chili done, right? Our goal tonight was to be done sharing everything we have to have and be off of here in an hour so you can eat supper if you haven't yet and eat your
Right.
chili for supper. So, but I think we're gonna move on just because, and remember when we're looking at what additional meat we can add to this, you could add leftover turkey, but it's really important that in the process of cooking your turkey, you're cooking it and thawing it and doing everything the right direction. I will also add a little tidbit now that most of you know where the extension office is. If you picked up your bag, we have a walking trail around the extension office that is a 1/4 mile long. And right now, all of our signs around the trail are based on Thanksgiving and things, thankful thoughts or quotes. And if you take the trail at the end, there's like a little QR code, or if the QR code don't work for you, if you ask the office, we can send you the link and you will go in for a drawing for a free turkey for the holidays. We won't get it till after Thanksgiving because we're leaving this up the whole month of November, but you would have a turkey for November if you happen to be the lucky recipient of that. So I'm going to let Jennifer talk a little bit on turkeys.
On turkeys. All right. So some things to know about turkeys. First of all is to make sure that you get what your family needs, right? Turkeys come in all shapes and sizes. So they recommend, according to some things, about 1 pound of turkey per person if it's the whole bird. So you're kind of taking into account that there's bone in there that you're not eating. So if you're having 12 people for Thanksgiving dinner, you need at least a 12-pound bird. If you want leftovers, then get a 15 or 16-pound bird. Some of us like lots of leftovers from our turkey. And if you're getting just a turkey breast and your family doesn't like things that have the bones attached and you just want the turkey breast, then you would plan on about 1/2 pound per person, because then as it cooks, you're going to end up with a little bit less than that, which is more of a serving size. So a serving size of any type of meat, including turkey, is 3 ounces, which is the size of a deck of cards. Most of the time, we all eat way more meat than we need to. And especially at the holidays, right? When we pile it all on there, but we only get it a couple times a year. So 3 ounces is a good serving size. And that's why a pound and 3 ounces are not the same. But as I said, they're taking into account the carcass that you're not eating. So, so get the right size. If you get a fresh one and you don't have somewhere to freeze it, then only buy it a couple of days before you're going to cook it, because it's going to have to sit in your refrigerator and you don't want it in there very long. If you buy a frozen turkey, because a lot of times they're cheaper and you can buy them early enough so you know you have a turkey for Thanksgiving, because it seems like there is a turkey shortage this year.
Yeah, I actually was at the dollar store this morning and I saw turkeys at the dollar store.
Okay, good. I know my husband was at a different grocery store the other day to get a turkey, and they said what they had right now is it, that once they're gone, they're gone. So.
So get
if
early.
you- Right. So if you have room in your freezer, buy it now, put it in your freezer. But then when you go to unthaw it, make sure that you're doing that safely. So in the refrigerator, if you're going to thaw your turkey in your refrigerator, you need to put it on the bottom shelf of your refrigerator and try to put it on a pan or something, so if anything that leaks does not get on other things in your refrigerator. And you always put meat at the bottom of your refrigerator so that if it does happen to drip, it doesn't drip on all your other food and contaminate those. So you want it down at the bottom. Allow about 24 hours of defrost time for every 5 pounds of turkey. Okay, so if you've got a 12-pound turkey, that's a little bit more than 10. It's going to take at least 2 days to unthaw that in your refrigerator. So don't try to take it out on Wednesday afternoon and think you're going to cook it on Thursday morning. Okay, you need to think ahead. Do not thaw it on the counter. No meat should be thawed on the counter because it is at room temperature, or it's cooling. It's warming too slowly, and then bacteria is more likely to grow. So you can also thaw it if you don't have time to do it in the refrigerator ahead of time. You can thaw it in cold water. Typically with meat, you should have the water running slightly. That's hard to do with a turkey that's as big as it is. The water's not going to hit it all. But you can, if you have a deep sink or a deep pot to put that turkey in, cover it in cold water, and then every half hour, switch out the water so that you have cold water again. Otherwise, it's not going to be cool enough so that the germs will be growing again. So in cold water, it says to allow about 30 minutes per pound to defrost a turkey. So again, if you've got a 12-pound turkey, it's going to take just over an hour. Now I would give yourself extra time just to be on the safe side. Okay. You can thaw a turkey in the microwave. I don't know of anybody who has a microwave big enough. So if you just have a turkey breast, that would be a possibility. But unless you've got a commercial size humongous microwave, you're not going to be able to thaw your turkey in there.
Jennifer, I'm going to interrupt you for one quick second.
Sure.
Just- There's a point that I think comes in question a lot with like defrosting and refreezing.
Yes.
To defrost your meat appropriately and in the refrigerator like you should, and then all of a sudden you decide don't have time to cook it, you can refreeze it. If you thaw it out under cold running water, it's been out longer than it would have been if you kept it in the right temperature the whole time, and then you can't refreeze it. You can cook it and freeze it,
Correct.
but you cannot refreeze it. But there's this myth out there, you can never refreeze something that's been frozen and then unfrozen. It's all about that time frame. So as long as you're doing everything correct, when it's out of the freezer, you can always put it back in the freezer.
Right. I just know that the texture might not be totally the same, because as it does unthaw, those ice crystals are going to do a little bit of something. So it might not be as perfect of a turkey if you refreeze it to use it again.
Correct.
But yes. So, all right. So lots of different ways to cook a turkey. There's the traditional way of roasting a turkey, of course, which a lot of us do. You want to make sure your pan is big enough and that your oven is going to hold it. So I'll kind of jump in there a little bit too with making sure you're timing your meal right. If you're making a big Thanksgiving dinner and you haven't really done that before, that turkey is going to take your whole oven for the amount of time it takes to cook. So you're not going to be able to throw the potatoes in there if you're baking potatoes, or you're not going to be able to throw the green bean casserole in there. because that turkey is pretty much going to take up your whole oven space. So keep that in mind when you're planning your side dishes so that you're not making things that all need the same space. Now you can either stuff your turkey or not stuff your turkey. Nowadays, they say it's not safe to stuff a turkey. But if you cook it correctly and to the right temperature, you're fine. Okay, now it does take longer to cook a stuffed turkey than an unstuffed turkey, but it can still be done safely. But you do that meat thermometer that you have. If you're cooking a turkey, make sure you use that. You need to check it in the thigh and in the part of the breast. Try to check it in 2 different places, and you have to make sure that it gets to 165 degrees internally. So don't just stick it in a little bit and say, oh, it's fine. You need to stick it in, not touching a bone, because the bone's going to be a different temperature, but stick it real well into the meat. Let it get to where it's going to go, and it's got to be 165 at least to be safe. The same with the stuffing. If you have stuffing in your bird, test the stuffing and make sure that's at least 165. So the stuffing isn't meat, because we always have to do the meat to 165, but the juices from that turkey are now in your stuffing. So you have to make sure that that is cooked all the way as well. Nowadays they have oven bags that you can put in your roaster pan, and it makes cleanup a lot easier. Just know that your turkey isn't going to be nice and crispy like it would be if you weren't using a bag. It'll cook great and be easy to clean up, but it won't be nice and crispy. A lot of people put aluminum foil over the turkey to help keep some of the juices in there, and that's fine. Or if you have a covered roasting pan that's big enough, you could use the cover on your roasting pan. One tip that I've always done is, so that it's nice and crispy on the outside, I have my oven at 450 when I put my turkey in. And then once it's in there, I turn my oven down to 350 to cook it for the rest of the time. And that way it's nice and gets crispy on the outside a little bit, and that keeps the juices in better, so it doesn't dry out. You can also braise it. So if the juices that are in it, and you have the, I'm drawing a blank again, the baster, there we go. You have a baster so that if you want to put the juices back over the turkey to add that flavor, you can do that as well. I don't, because I like it crispier on the outside. But you could grill a turkey as long as your grill is big enough. Just realize it's going to take a lot of time, so make sure you don't run out of propane. If you're down south, and some people do it up here, you could deep fry a turkey. One trick with deep frying a turkey, make sure your turkey is unfrozen. I'm sure you've all seen the bloopers on YouTube of people putting a frozen turkey and a hot thing of fat, and the whole thing explodes because those ice crystals and that fat do not mix. Okay, and if you are deep frying a turkey, it has to be done outside. It's not something you want to be doing inside. I have also in the past, one time when we were newly married, I had too many other things in my oven, and I don't think I had a pan big enough for my turkey, actually, for everybody that was coming, but I had a big enough pot from canning that I actually boiled my turkey overnight on a wood stove, and it was delicious. So lots of different ways you can cook your turkey. If you have a plug-in slow roaster, you could do it in there as long as that's big enough. So lots of ways to cook a turkey. Kind of depends on what texture you want the outside of the turkey to be as to what method you use, but always make sure that you're testing the temperature and make sure it's at 165 degrees before you eat it. Now, once you're done cooking it, say it's the first time you've ever cooked a turkey, it gets to your temperature before you think it will, dinner's not for another 2 hours. You can keep it in the oven at 200, slightly covered. Just make sure that the temperature is not dropping below 200. And that way, and the temperature of the turkey, inside of the turkey doesn't drop below 140. And that way it's still safe to eat. And then turkey is also like red meat. Once it's cooked, you want to let it sit for 10, 15 minutes. And then it's going to be much easier to carve or slice. So a couple tips on that.
And also, if you let your meat rest after you bring it out of the oven, it makes all the juices go back into it. instead of leaking out. So if you're cutting it right away, red meat, turkey, chicken, anything, your juices are going to spill out, which sometimes makes it get that dry or trace. So let it sit and rest so the juices go back into the meat.
Yep. And then too, when you have it, when you take it out, as you said, we're letting it rest, then you have time to take the juices from the bottom of the pan to make your gravy. So you got to do that, right? So nutrition of a turkey, it's a complete protein because it is a meat. There's actually more nutrients in the dark meat, but that's because there's more fat in the dark meat. So depends on if you want the extra fat to get those little bit of extra nutrients. I know some people only like dark meat, some people only like white meat. They both have good nutritional value to them. Most of the fat in a turkey is in the skin. So if you remove the skin, then you're not getting a whole lot of fat, only what cooked into it a little bit. The skin tastes delicious, right? So have a little bit so you can get that nice crispy crunch, but don't eat all the skin yourself because then you're going to get way too much fat. And actually the wing has the most calories because it has the most fat in it. So if you're trying to be lower in fat, especially avoid the wing, even if you like a little bit of dark meat, eat some thigh meat, but stay away from the wing. So other than fat, there's some B vitamins in turkey. There is zinc and selenium and choline. There is some iron, some phosphorus and potassium. And then of course, there's all the chemical compound that everybody knows of called tryptophan, which makes us all want to go to sleep. So that is in the turkey as well. The sodium content of a turkey depends on how it is bought and how it is prepared. A lot of turkeys nowadays have been injected with a salt water solution to keep it moist. So just realize that when you're making your turkey that there might already be a bunch of sodium in it. So you don't want to be adding a lot of things to it that would have a lot of sodium to it. Some people like to put chicken broth on there or something, but you don't want to be adding too much sodium to something that might already have that. If you have a friend who has a turkey farm and you get a fresh turkey, there's not going to be all that sodium in it. So just kind of know that there's differences there. All right, that's my nutritionals. What else do we need to cover, Kenna?
Well, I'll cover a little bit on like what to do with the leftovers.
Okay.
So if we're talking about the leftovers, one, we've already said different things, you can put them in your chili, you can make other dishes with it, but something that's really important with the leftovers as well is that you also, just like when you're cooking it, you have to heat it back up to that correct temperature of your leftovers. You still got to get it back up to that 165. You don't want to leave, you think of Thanksgiving, you think of how you eat your meals, you think of the holidays, you think that you have everybody over, everybody's guests, and then all of a sudden the meal's sitting out for a long time because people are going to graze all afternoon. And don't look at me and say you've never done it. I know you have, because I know how Thanksgiving and holidays work. If it's really hot, over 90 degrees, because you live somewhere hot or you got your wood stove going and it's extremely warm in your house because you got a cold grandmother or something, an hour is the most you want to leave those leftovers sitting out. 2 hours max. Keep in mind, everything's at danger zone. 2 hours max. We want to get it back in. We want to get it into stuff. If I am putting this pot of chili away tonight, because, Kenna's one person here in this house, it's a huge pot. I'm not eating it. I'm saving it for my daughter's birthday party that won't be till Saturday. If I stuck this in my oven or in my refrigerator right now in this pot, is it going to cool down quick? No. And those are the things you have to look on. So they recommend always putting them in a shallow, more spread out kind of storage container. So it does cool back down within that recommended time to get it out of that danger zone. Just makes it safer for us. So storing it in smaller portions, shallower containers help cool it down quicker and get it out of that danger zone as well. You can freeze your leftover turkey, recommend you keep it for like 2 to 6 months to keep it in best quality. A lot of times what I'll do with my leftover chicken or leftover turkey that we don't eat, I'll shred it. I'll put it in freezer bags. I'll get all the air out that I possibly can of it. Sometimes I double bag it. I stick it in my freezer, then I can pull it out for another meal as well. So that's kind of what we had to cover tonight. I will say one other thing, when Jennifer was talking about cooking the turkey, you can buy turkeys and they sometimes have those little, or you can buy meats as well, that have those little pop-up thermometers that say, boom, this is done. Okay, don't trust that. You know, we gave you a digital thermometer. We're big on passing out thermometers through the extension office. These are your friends. Use them. Okay. You don't know how many times I've had my kids call me, is this safe to eat? I said, I don't know. I said, take the temperature of it, you know, see where it's at. These are your friends. My kids have got these for Christmas because these are your friends and they keep you safe. Don't trust those pop out ones as well. So,
Thank you. I forgot to mention that.
yep, nope, that's okay. That's kind of what we have. We hope you enjoy your chili. We hope that your kids, and if you actually looked in your pan and if you did anything like me, I added a lot of other stuff to it. You can't, somebody said they don't like sweet potatoes. I can't even tell there's sweet potatoes in mine right now. You know, another way you can sneak those vegetables in for your kids, put shredded carrots in here. You know, dice up tiny carrots, add other vegetables to this. I promise you it will take on that whole chili flavor and they won't even know they're eating it. So it's a good way to sneak some of those other vegetables into your kids as well.
I
And
puree mine up.
yeah,
There you go.
and if you puree yours, that works as well. That's why I said you can use a can of pumpkin. I have a wonderful pumpkin chili that I make with turkey burger, and it's just a puree can of pumpkin in there, and you don't even know what's in there, and you're still getting all those good vitamins and nutrients that come from those orange vegetables. So that's what we have. If you did not pick up your ingredients, please stop by. We don't want to eat this dish for a long, a lot. And we have a lot left over because several didn't pick it up.
But Kenna, in the chat box, somebody said, can I have this sent to me? So if you can let them know how to get hold of the recording.
I will. Actually, I'm going to stop recording now. I will send out